people when they're going into starting a new business? I know I personally, and I think there'd be many others out there, would be worried about the contracts, the legal side of things. Am I going to do the wrong thing and get in trouble? Do you have any advice for people who might be worried about that when they're going into this?
First of all, if you've no idea about any of that, just buy someone's kit. Like,
yeah,
there are, you can Google, what do I need to put in a contract? There's videos on it. We've got stuff on the Creator Hub to support with that based on our learnings and what we use. Like, it's a contract template, or it helps you draft, your own contract template and a statement of work. But you just need to, as instructional designers, we ask questions, right? And you need to ask, and this is something I want you to get from this video. As a business owner, it's scary. I'm a business owner, I'm a freelancer, all these things. At the end of the day, you're an instructional designer. If you apply instructional design to your business, easy, right? You're thinking, it's a mindset shift again. If you're thinking about it as a business owner, it's overwhelming. I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm doing. There's so much, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to fail. I'm going to lose my money. I'm not going to get clients. How do I get my first client? I don't have a portfolio. But if you go, okay, what would you say if you were solving a training problem or a business problem for a client? What are the questions you'd ask? Ask those same questions of yourself to get your business, because that's the problem that you're trying to solve. So just apply that same thing. But in terms of contracts, it is ask questions. They're on Google, the answers. You would just briefly tips, because it's different, but the first thing you could do is on your first contract or your first gig, you ask the client to give you a contract, and then you read it properly and you go through it and you adapt it. And now, because a lot of times big organizations, they have their law team, or I don't know what they're called, but their legal team, I guess. And they will draft something that is in their favor, but it's covered. It has all the legislation that you need to care about, and all the fancy things, the questions we wouldn't know how to ask because they're the SME, right? So they give you a template, you read it really carefully, and you highlight things and you go, I don't know what that means. I'm going to ask them. That's okay, right? This one doesn't sound right for me, because a lot of the times they just kind of have a cookie cutter contract that goes from if they're a construction company, they'll have when you're putting down road pathways, this is the contract. It's also the same contract when we engage an instructional designer. It's also the same contract when we buy pens and stationery for the office. So sometimes they don't get our world. So it's a contract is a negotiation, right? So you have the opportunity to go, that doesn't work for me. I can't hand you over the images or the IP in this circumstance because I don't own it. So what do we need to do about that? We need to figure that out. So you go through it, you go back to them and you say, I'd like to just have a chat, or through email, can you please explain what these highlighted things are? I don't know what that looks like for us. And sometimes they don't know why so it's just a chat about what does that look like in our context. And then the next thing is going, okay, well, these particular ones that you've mentioned, they don't specifically work for us. And this is what I'm coming back with. Do you agree with this? And it's a negotiation. So that's the first part of it. And then you have that moving forward and you just constantly adapt it. I'd say the other thing is we don't do hectic contracts, but when you are working on a project, basically your scope is your contract, right? So a scope is a list of items that are included or excluded from the project. So you just need to get very, very clear on your dot points of what is included in the scope and what is not, and what is based on assumptions. So for example, you say it is one e-learning course up to 20 minutes in duration, completed by the learner, or completed by our team. So that I don't know, if you had a really slow learner that took an hour, they're like, well, that person took an hour, so we should have 3 times the amount of learning. So you see that the nuances in language are really important, and that it's very specific. One e-learning up to 20 minutes, not approximately 20 minutes, because approximately is very subjective. Is that 30 minutes? Is that 10 minutes? So getting very specific of list all the things that they can expect at the end, the outputs that are going to come out what are the conditions of those outputs? So voiceover, for example, voiceover, is it included? Is it not? If it's not, that it can be quoted as required. If it is voiceover in there, is it professional voiceover? Is it your team doing voiceover? Is it the client doing voiceover? And what are you going to do if your team do the voiceover and they go, we don't like that voice? And then you have to re-record it, which is more effort. So then you're like, is that money lost? How many reviews is really important, because that scope creep. And I hear people on their 17th review. God damn, you don't want that happening. So yeah, you want 2 reviews of the storyboard, 2 reviews of the e-learning module or whatever it is, then approval. What happens after your approval? So I guess the questions that we have in that contract resource, I'm just thinking now, the Creator Hub, help you define your scope, but get very clear on it. What is included? What are you expecting to deliver at the end? What will the client physically, even if it's digitally, be handed over? What will they not get? And what are you making assumptions on as well?